Hello, my noble band of outlaws. Outlaw Samurai coming at you live with a video. This is a very special video. The first ever requested unboxing of me from one of the noble outlaws, Outlaw G Pimp. I didn't get his permission to use his name in the video, so I'm going by his moniker. Of a complete mystery sword. I went over to his place. We talked, and he gave me the sword to do the unboxing and review. I am limited in what I can cut with it, only cutting pool noodles, which I have some behind the camera. But, that aside, I have no idea what this is. It could be the greatest sword of all time, or a shitbox. And car guys will know when you say shitbox, it's the kind that every fucking light on the dashboard blinks like a Christmas tree, the transmission leaks, the oil leaks, the gas leaks, yet that son of a bitch still drives. So, use a sword to unbox a sword. Now, as I said, being extrally gingerly with this because it's not my sword. I just remembered something very important that I have to go grab. I'll be right back. And I'm back. I had to get paper towels and handling gloves. Now you're probably wondering, oh Outlaw, why are you wearing gloves? You never wore gloves in any of your other sword unboxing videos. And you didn't wear gloves when you handled the kokuryu that Space Ghost sent you. Well, the reason being that I didn't wear gloves, I don't usually wear gloves, is that A, the swords that I usually unbox are my own personal swords that I spent money on. And B, the sword Space Ghost sent me was one that he gifted to me very generously. Now how Outlaw G Pimp found my channel was through some of our other sword friends, including Matthew Jensen and the like, who I'm subscribed to and I'm part of their memberships. Now, he told me all the documentation I needed would be in this certificate. Normally, the swords I buy don't come with certificates. So we shall be making sure that we take very good care to return said sword in perfect condition. Oh, this is a Ryujin sword. Alright. So, the series name is Haramoto. The tsuba name is Musashi. Overall is 40-inch. Blade length 27.5. Suka length 11.5. Mekugi Ana 2. Tanzo Ho Forge Way. T10 high carbon steel. Maro Wave Shinogi Zukuri. And Motohaba is 1.243. Sakihaba is 0.90. Motoshige is 0.30. Senju is 0.20. And Hanmon is Gono Midara. Weight 2 pounds 5 ounces. HRC is 58. Edge hardness. Mune HRC, which is the spine. Spine is 40. Real Hamon and hardness created with clay tempering. Real ray skin wrapped grip with hardwood scabbard with high quality piano finish. Extremely sharp honed edge. Tsuba, kashira, and fushira, seba, habaki all appear to be brass. Designer is Mr. Samsung. Samsung. Serial number R12951. Okay. So we read off all the specs. Now, I will make a disclaimer here. I will be taking the oil off of this blade, if only to get a better look at the patterns underneath. But I will not be putting any oil or lubrication on this sword, simply because I don't want to take the risk of causing rust, since I never oil any of my swords. I usually just keep them dry, and that retards all the rusting process. And Outlaw G Pimp, he has enough weapons and experience to know how to maintain it. So I'm going to leave the sword care up to him, and I'm just going to do the initial thoughts, impressions, and cutting. So without further ado, probably don'ts and shouldn'ts, let's get started. Da 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 da. Ooh! Just gently put that down for a moment. They even embroider their name, Ryujin, on the sword back. That's a nice little embellishment. Alright. So, first impressions of the sword. Not bad. This actually has similar fushira and kashira to my Scorn katana from Sokojikara. The saya has a teardrop shape to it. The black lacquer piano finish. And this is why I'm wearing gloves while handling it, so I don't muck up the finish on his sword. A Musashi ring tsuba with a nice bit of detail work, because it rounds out here but tapers inward. The rims on the inside of the tsuba, they feel a bit sharp. As I press the meat of my hand up against it, it's not so sharp that I feel like it would hurt necessarily, but it is something to mention that it is a bit sharp. The Ito wrap feels to be made of cotton. Oh, saved it. Don't worry. None of the important bits got touched the ground. There we go. Now, as I say, the Ito wrap seems to be serviceably tight. It doesn't really move around. It does, however, move ever so slightly underneath the manuki. And I do see that you can actually maneuver, like, move the manuki, not with an extreme amount of force. I just barely pushed on the manuki and it started to move. The end knots seem reasonably well done. Nothing really pushes into my hand. I didn't see any indication of the price on the certificate. I may look at that later before the end of this video. The Samegawa is real. There's no emperor nodes on it. And there is, you can actually make out the transition where the panel ends and the grip begin, where the plain wood begins. Now I'm going to go under the assumption that this is a $200-ish sword. So honestly, these slight cosmetic blemishes I don't really see as too much of a detriment in this price range. This is the I would assume this is getting into the mid-budget, entering mid-budget range sword. There is a ledge here on the fushira. I don't feel the ledge as I grip, but I also haven't swung this thing yet. The Mikuge are just simple bamboo pegs, nothing to write home about. They do jut out a little bit past the Ito, but again, nothing so jarring that you immediately feel it in your grip. Alright? So far, the fit between the Habaki and the Koiguchi is quite acceptable. You can still push it out with your thumb. Ah, yes. The sword condom. I'm going to gently lay the saya down whilst I remove sword condom. It's got that jelly on it. Alright. Now we can get into the blade itself. The blade is perfectly straight. I don't see any warps or bends. And I like that it has this actually engraved dragon. Now this is actually a Shinto weapon that that Shinto monks and or Buddhas would use. I believe the Ashura also use it as well. If you know what this is, type it in the comments below. The Shinogi, not the Shinogi, the Yokote, yeah. The Yokote line is not geometrical. In fact, you can barely even make out a Yokote line. This has an extremely uniform polish. They didn't even bother counter polishing the Kisaki. I don't see any ripples in the sword polish. I take that back. There's just a slight impurity right here that you have to get the light on just right in order to see it. I don't know how well the camera will pick it up, but See that beautiful Hamon line. Now, I like it. It's a very nimble blade. It moves very freely in the hand. Now, there is no tachikaze or sword whistle or wind. I take that back. It's ever so very faint, but if you put enough force behind it and swing it fast enough, you can hear a very slight tachikaze. And that's because this sword does not have a bohi, which bohis actually help make the tachikaze sound louder. Now, we will take a look at the koiguchi. Now, this tells me that this is a $200-ish sword because there's no kind of reinforcement on the koiguchi that I can see. I can make out a very slight transition line, but I highly doubt it's horn. It's more than likely some sort of plastic. Now, not to say that this koiguchi isn't well done, because it is. It's very well done for a $200 sword. Again, is what I'm basing my assumption on. Ooh. I like how this feels. For the draw. Now, let's see if this has affected the fit at all. Oh! Okay. So, the sword condom is what was keeping the sword so well seated in here. So, Outlaw G Pimp, my friend, you may want to attempt to shim this, which you can do with just a bead of Gorilla Glue and a little piece of 800 grit sandpaper. Lay down a bead of Gorilla Glue and just shave that bead down once it dries to the point where the sword won't fall out with a simple shake, but can also be pushed out with your thumb. Saya doesn't have any noticeable imperfections. It's actually quite a decently done lacquering job. I'm very much impressed by Ryujin swords. I've never actually ordered from Ryujin, but this is actually starting to make me want to take a look at their wares, so to speak. Now, trying to get the cool little stand out without breaking everything. So far this lacquer seems somewhat resistant to fingerprints, which is very good. Now, there is one part of this that I will have to handle the blade barehanded to tell. Again, I'm being very gingerly and very respectful because this is not my sword, and I intend to return it in pristine condition. And that is how sharp the edge is. I don't foresee this going too well. Now the sword also completely forgot I wasn't wearing gloves. There you go. Yeah, it's still there. There we go. Bit of rattle in the bottom of the saya. A good fix for that is to take a small chunk of pool noodle and just kind of press it down all the way to the bottom of the saya. And then when you sheath, the tip rests in the pool noodle, taking away that rattle. But it's worth knowing it's there. Before I get to the cutting, this sword also comes with shirodome. And from the looks of things, they are not glued in, which is atypical for pretty much 99% of shirodome. Honestly, I don't even know why they bother putting shirodome on. Most of the practitioners who use these and untie the sageo cord actually just take them out because they can ding up and scratch the saya with them on. Alright. Not bad. Now, something to address before I continue this. The reason I was restricted to pool noodles was because he didn't want to scratch up the blade. However, depending on the polish, a pool noodle will still scratch up the blade. I don't know how much you can tell in this light, but from where my fingers are, there's actually a bit of scuffing going on in the blade. I just wanted to point that out before I continue. Now, the scuffing does appear to go away with a good wipe of a cloth. Hence another reason why I'm wearing canvas gloves. But it is worth noting and should be pointed out. All right. So it's not scratching the blade, but it is leaving slight scuffs behind that easily go away with a swipe of a cloth. So far, so good. The blade isn't the sharpest in the world. Because if it was, I'd be able to do this. Never mind, make a damn liar out of me. But no. Forgot to put on a belt. What I was going to say is because this blade isn't hair popping razor blade sharp, as the pool noodle gets shorter, longer pool noodles are easier to cut because there's more weight above the cut line holding down the target. As you get closer to the bottom, they get harder to cut because there's less weight. Hence why you sometimes get tearing at the bottom of the noodles when you cut them. There's a benefit to the Musashi tsuba that other tsubas don't have, and that is you can actually use filthy European style barbarian swordsmanship. Like that. So far, this sword is very impressive. Now, there's one thing to mention, and that is this sword. It's not a cheat code cutter or a laser beam or a swing and ting kind of blade. And what do I mean by that? It's that this sword isn't necessarily one of the blades that is designed to just slice through everything with minimal effort. From what I am experiencing cutting with this sword, you do need proper technique and proper edge alignment to get good, clean, concise cuts. And I know a lot of us say that, and people are like, oh, edge alignment is so easy. Edge alignment isn't really easy. It gets easier with cutting because you can think that you're holding a sword perfectly straight and in line with a target, but your blade can actually be slightly canted to one side or the other. And you won't notice, and when you cut, people wonder why they scalp the cut or the cut goes halfway in and then sinks straight down. The sinking straight down is more of a follow-through issue, but that's edge alignment. And this sword lends itself to wanting to be used with proper edge alignment. It's not something that will do the work for you. And because of the way the sword's weighted, I feel most of the weight is concentrated around here. Like a lot of the cutting weight is focused here, almost directly at the tip, because this sword does not have much at all, if at all, of a distal taper. In fact, the tapering on this blade is almost negligible. Meaning that it will be a strong chopper and a cutter, but it won't necessarily be a fine slicing blade. Oh, I almost got a double. And for any of you doubting that I actually was able to cut that, and this is a perfect example of what I was just talking about. Bad edge alignment and poor follow through. Which even the best of us in the sword community still get those bad cuts every once in a while. Just a matter of repetition and practice. So, overall, what would I give this sword? And honestly, it doesn't feel that bad in the hand. I would say that this is a good entry-level sword, considering that I'm, again, roughly estimating its price to be around $200-ish. And it does have some of the stereotypical problems that those lower-end swords have. Again, let's refer to the paperwork. Says extremely sharp hand-honed edge. It's not extremely sharp. It is serviceable sharp, meaning that it will cut, but with the current edge that it has, you truly do need to have good edge alignment and proper technique. If this had a razor edge, if this had like a razor blade's edge, like some of those edges you see me put on my swords, it would have just sailed through the pool noodles with very little resistance. I cannot read the production date to save my damn life. Okay. Up here it says T10 high carbon steel. But down here it also says 1045 carbon steel. Now, what I'm assuming that is that they use 1045 to make the fittings. Because I have 2 or 3 T10 differentially hardened T10 blades. My Bayako, my Battle Arms Bayako, my Sokochikara Scorn Katana, and the Kokuryu that from Suedo that Space Ghost sent me. So I know how sharp a T10 blade is, and I know how they handle. Plus, I also have 1045 swords, and I know for a fact that with as much cutting as I was doing, even with pool noodles, 1045 blades tend to dull rather quickly, especially if you're doing a lot of cutting. And with as much cutting as I've done today, the edge of that blade should have slightly dulled. And if I just grab this so I don't leave fingerprints. This edge hasn't dulled in the slightest. It's still as sharp as it was when it came to me. Well, not came to me, but was given to me for the purposes of review. So, I know there's a lot of backlash in the sword community about the S5 scandal. I'm not going to get into that. But it truly does seem to me like they used the 1045 to make the tsuba, the fushira, and the kashira. Because that looks like a T10 blade in terms of its polishing and how the hamon reflects on it. Because it looks exactly the same as the other T10 blades I have. And it cuts. And what I mean by it cuts, it holds its edge like a T10 should. Because again, I could put a razor's edge on a 1045, and with the amount of cutting I did today, it would slightly dull. Not completely, because it's not cutting through harder plastics, but it would slightly dull, if that makes sense. For example, this is a 1060 blade. Which 1060 is a slightly better steel than 1045, but I digress. The point I'm trying to make here is that A, this sword is as what was advertised in the certificate as far as I can see. Because unfortunately, thanks to Shadow Dancer and the whole S10 debacle, we sword tubers have to be a little more skeptical nowadays, unfortunately. But overall, what would I rate this sword? I would actually give this sword a 9.5 out of 10. And Outlaw, why are you giving it a 9.5? Well, it says extremely sharp, and it's just not up to the Outlaw standard of what I consider extremely sharp. But everything else seems to be just fine. The Ito didn't slip or move at all during the cutting. The kashira, the fushira, everything's still tied, the habaki. I will say this does have somewhat of tiny seppa. And not that I don't like it, it does add like a bit of elegance to the blade with how small the seppa is. And there's one last element that I forgot to mention, and that's that the seppa are actually laser engraved with Ryujin on them. Yeah, this is why I don't do unboxing, cutting, and review all in one video, but I don't want to keep this sword too long from its owner, as I kind of feel it's unfair. Personally speaking, I feel it's a little unfair of me to have been given the honor of unboxing this, as that's something I feel the purchaser should be given the honor of doing. That's just me. Like I said, I intend to return this sword in its prime condition, as I was only given permission to do basic cutting and review of it. Overall, you can't really go wrong with this thing. It cuts well. It has a nice fit and finish. There's nothing particularly wrong with this sword, except for the fact that it's a little misleading on how sharp it is actually. But again, that's personal preference. I put a scalpel edge on everything I get. And I literally mean everything. I put a scalpel edge on an axe. And you can also say it okay, so it actually loses 2.5 points for the edge sharpness and 2.5 points because you can physically move the manuki underneath. It doesn't take that much time or effort to just put a couple of dabs of JB Weld or super glue on the manuki to keep them in place. Now, you also may be wondering, oh, why aren't you bringing attention to the massive jarring transitions at the kashira and the fushira? That's because this is a $200 sword and corners are to be expected to be cut in the $200 price range. $300 and above is where I start getting more and more picky about fit and finish and all that. But let me know what you think down below, my noble band of outlaws. Again, massive thank you to our noble outlaw Pimp or Pimp G for allowing me to do the surprise unboxing and cutting / review video for this sword. And who knows, we may have another collaboration in the works. We'll see. We got the wheels turning. So with that in mind, my noble band of outlaws, Outlaw Samurai tells all y'all be crazy rednecks, be safe in using your weapons, and I would highly recommend checking out Ryujin's sword. So, I would definitely recommend this if somebody is looking for a beginner entry-level T10 sword, or if you just want to collect a cool-looking sword. I don't have any prior experience with Ryujin, so I can't say myself about them, but so far they are very much impressing me. And I know I've said this like 3 times in this video, but until next time, my noble band of outlaws, Outlaw Samurai tells all y'all, be crazy rednecks, be safe to use your weapons. Tell me what you think down in the comments below. And again, thank you, Outlaw Pimp G, for allowing me to do the review of this sword. I'm out. Peace.